One thing I've been working on quite a bit the last day or so is I've been trying to get a new mic, and I bought this blue Yeti mic, and it when I test it in Windows, it sounds good. You know, I applied some filters to it. I was running all kinds of tests, even in OBS. I'd run a fan in the background. I turned on a dripping faucet so there'd be like background noise, and to see if the filters would actually work, and they did. But that Blue Yeti mic, um, every time I'd run it for like 10 minutes, it would just shut off. And in some cases, it would shut off the speakers and it would shut off the camera even. And it was just doing this over and over. And I've been looking into this, and it's driven me crazy. I've had like 2 hours sleep last night. Like I got it late last night, and I was up late, and then I trying to get it to work, and then earlier today, and I just finally said, you know what, forget it. I'm going to use the old mic. Um, even this current mic with the filters, I tried some filters on it, and they do block some background noise, but the filters, I noticed were adding my voice sounded really weird with the filters on. So I'm hoping there's no issues with that. Uh, like I know the audio is a bit of an issue in this series. It's at times it even cuts out, but there's like this is the best I can do. I only have limited time to work on, either the promotion on YouTube or getting my social media account set up. I got to write some content. I have to clip this stuff, and I have so much time to deal with microphone issues, and it's been very frustrating. Right now, I'm not recommending a Blue Yeti. That is sound like, well, I could run the Windows test no problem. It was like good quality sound, very good sound. But you can't hear it now because it just doesn't like there's something to do with the drivers or something like that where it uh, it runs for a bit, and then it just stops working. It completely shuts off, and then I'll even go and look to select it, and it's not even visible as a device on the machine. It just disappears. I understand there's this program called Logitech G Hub that I might be able to mess with after the episode, but it's just one of those things. Maybe I'll do a rant on that actually while on the topic. I was going to do this in the future episode, but this is one of the another big issue with capitalism is that any kind of device that's kind of not targeted for the high end rich people, uh, typically, whether it works reliably or not is an afterthought with a lot of these companies. They sell it cheap, and quite frankly, they don't care if you're going to do anything professional with it. And this Blue Yeti device, uh, it's either they're not considering how to properly make the drivers for Windows, or Windows is screwing with Blue Yeti, and they're because they don't want their devices to work on Windows, right? So the microphone I got was actually used, but the guy said it worked perfectly fine the other day, and honestly, it does work fine in terms of if I just go into Windows and test it. But once everything's running in OBS, I got the game running, it just shuts off. It just can't deal with it. And so that this actually will be a very early round in the show. I'm not gonna, we'll go over the city in a moment here, but I just want to get this rant over with because it's really been pissing me off the past, since yesterday evening when I got it. That's something that should be plug and play just isn't. And it reminded me of another story of my printer. Actually, this printer you see behind me here, this printer is probably 15, 20 years old, and it still works, but it doesn't work by default. I'm a software engineer, so I had to kind of rig it to make it work. Um, the drivers for it are so old that they're not supported. Um, so you can still use them, but they're not digitally signed drivers. And by default, this is another Windows scam. And again, uh, Microsoft and Windows, they are, it was a great idea when it first came out, when this operating system emerged, but now it's nothing but a problem. Like, they engineer obsolescence, and I'll explain to you how they do that. So when you get your drivers for your hardware, all the stuff you buy, it comes with a driver, and it's required to be digitally signed, i.e., a third party will confirm the authenticity of it. But those signings are time limited. So even if your machine can physically run, like, 15, 20 years, Microsoft, their whole process of using drivers ensures that things will go obsolete when they decide not to authorize the digital signature on the driver. There's still a way to make it work. They allow that to not be fully criminally responsible, but they still, it's not by default the way it works. And by default is, if your drivers are too old, your machines, your devices aren't allowed to work because Windows said so. And that's the only reason, because consumerism, right? They're part of the problem. They want to. The ideology of capitalism is going to force you to buy something new, whether you like it or not, because of this feature of their operating system. And for me to make it work, this printer to work, I had to go to the website, download it, the driver, and I think I had to go into a Windows security setting. Like, you have to boot Windows in a special mode, then disable the requirement that drivers are digitally signed, and then restart Windows. You could Google a procedure how to do this. So the information's out there on how to get around the Windows virus, and then the driver would work. Okay, so and I wonder if this microphone that I got here, again, it was a few years old, and I wonder if they just thought, well, you know what, we want to sell some newer mics, and we don't really care about lower end consumers because they don't, give us as much money. So let's just make sure we have minimal, if any, support for devices. And again, this could be a Blue Yeti issue too. Again, there are two devices they got to communicate, right? The microphone needs to communicate with the machine, so it's quite possible that the Blue Yeti needs to look into what's caused this as well. But I'm going to give it a chance after the recording. I'm going to see if I can get the microphone to work. Maybe this will be the last recording you hear with this mic. But at least, even though the quality's terrible and it occasionally cuts out, at least it's running. Like, by default, this Blue Yeti, and the guy that sold it to me was a nice guy. He actually, I told him about it, the issue this morning, and he said he'd give me my money back. So if you're watching, you know who you are. Thank you very much appreciated. That this is very hard to start out. Like, I'm doing this because this is about the only thing I think I can make money doing. Like, to ultimately get paid for my skills, right? If you're an engineer, there was a time when engineers and lawyers were projected to make the same salaries. At least when I started going to school, I could have become a lawyer, I could have become an engineer. I thought engineer is a bit more practical, but then businesses started sourcing out a lot of engineering work to other countries, and despite the raw abilities of an individual here, the market got flooded and the salaries went down, and it's just not viable for me to work as an engineer. I'd rather I think that I'm more valuable teaching a little bit how the world works, and I think this is a more productive use of my time, and I think ultimately this can and will pay more, but I need a lot of likes and subscribes for that to happen. And I'm dealing with other things too. I'm dealing with the algorithm. I actually discovered too that the YouTube algorithm is a little unfair to new YouTube users. It isn't. There is a bit of a filtering process, but again, I'm just going to keep making episodes. I'll do this for a year, and even if I never get favored in that year, like after a year, then maybe like someone will find me. Well, I'll find them and I'll tell them. I'll clip this out and I'll say this is what's happening. People are silenced. They're not allowed to talk about Microsoft's engineered obsolescence in their design. And again, this is all in the end, this is not even per se Microsoft's fault, but they're being one of the top companies in the world. They should be leading the way to end capitalism. They should be like very, very adamant in putting people in office that insist on UBI, that this need to constantly be required to sell things in order to feed oneself, which is like what a lot of companies have to do. This philosophy is illogical. The reward shouldn't be how much you sell. The reward should be based on how well things work, right? Whether you enable the ability for people to easily fix things themselves, whether you engineer things to last much longer. A lot of stuff lasts quite a bit longer than it used to. So, or in the past, it used to last quite a bit longer, and now it doesn't for this reason because quarterly earnings reports, right? So Microsoft, even though they didn't start the problem, still, shame on you because you're not doing anything to solve the problem. You're probably one of the top companies that could be a strong advocate against this methodology of, remuneration for work, right? It shouldn't be based purely on sales. It should be based on a functionality of product. And if you've listened to the series, I've discussed many ways that could be done, many alternative solutions to how things could operate. And if you're just not listening to them, then you're part of the problem, right? So maybe someone at Microsoft will hear this and get their uh, uh, get their stuff together and make sure that things are like any stuff. Like look at the economy too. This is going to get bad too. With I'm recording this in April. Tariffs were just recently announced, so I don't know how long those are going to last for. I imagine they'll be gone pretty quick. A bit of a prediction here because I don't see how this is going to work. But um, people are crunched right now. Like I'm so happy this guy who sold me the mic that I can't use is willing to buy it back at it. I can barely afford food. And I don't know where I'm going to get a mic from. Maybe I'll look at some alternative options. But uh, Microsoft, you got to make stuff even more affordable. Make the whole thing free and make it last as long as possible. That's real economics. And speaking of real economics, we got to get back to our real economics simulator here.